G'day there. Welcome back to An Actor Talks About. Thanks for everybody who joined in on the live feed last week. It was pretty cool. I had a whole week teaching students all about monologues, and it was the stuff I really enjoy doing, which is getting face to face with people on camera, and then running a scene or a monologue, and I can really just work with them and direct with them, and ask all these questions that we've talked about from the start. I think we talked about memorizing lines, which was the first part, and then we talked about creating a character, which is like a general way of creating character, and then there's all these little elements. Last week we talked about objectives, and essentially that's what does the character want in this particular scene, and that extends to the whole story. Now what I want to talk about today is obstacles. And what obstacles cause is conflict. And without conflict and obstacles, it's really hard for a story to go anywhere. And as an actor, it really gives you a lot of juice and a lot to work with when you're looking at your character, because you've got something to fight for. I mean, if you just walked in and you could get, Ocean's 11, if they could just walk in and take the money, the movie would be over in 5 minutes. There's got to be obstacles. So an obstacle is what gets in the road of the objective of the actor really getting what they want, and they could be various things. An obstacle could be a physical obstacle. It could be something. For example, the dwarves. And Smaug the dragon. The obstacle from getting the gold and taking over the mountain is that there's a great bloody dragon there that's going to incinerate them, and that quick. So there's that. There's people. There's all the other people at stake, and sometimes it doesn't even have to be other people. It could be, if you're going for a job, and a character really wants a particular job, and maybe the obstacle could be someone else is going for the job. Or, the classic example in, movies like, Selma, is that, the obstacle is, these people who marched, and Martin Luther King, they wanted the choice, and they wanted freedom, and they wanted to be able to do what they wanted to do without, discrimination. And the obstacle was not just the people who discriminated, but the whole of society. And, they had to overcome that. So I guess the greater the obstacle, it creates the greater conflict, and in some regards the greater story. It doesn't apply to everything. Comedy is usually something, it could be something simpler, or it's taken in a different context. But if you see an obstacle, like we talk about the dragon, say with Bilbo, and you've got the historical obstacle of the dwarves and the elves, but also a lot of the obstacles could also come from within. So, for example, say, in The Hobbit, Bilbo's obstacle was that he didn't really think he was courageous. There was a part of him that was very courageous and wanted to go on adventures, and there was the other part of him that was very homely and wanted to stay home. So a lot of his conflict was with himself, and it was like that beautiful moment when, the dwarves were in Bag End, and then, everyone left, and he was sitting there and just looking and just staring into nothing, and then he decides to go. And that was him, because he'd already told Gandalf he wasn't going to go, and that's not him, that's not who he's about. But the conflict was the other part of him really wanted to do it, and so that's what drove him in the end. And again with a character like Thorin Oakenshield, some of the conflict with him, there was a lot of things. He was conflicted, and one of his obstacles was the pressure to be king, and the pressure to lead, and the pressure to lead the dwarves. But also there was this sickness, this gold sickness that his grandfather had suffered as well. So, there's a lot of things, when it comes to obstacles. So, look, when you're looking at a script, sometimes on paper, if it looks really simple, then quite often it isn't. And so when you look at it and you think, what does my character want in this monologue or in this scene, make sure, if it's not obvious, you really dig deep and have a look at what are the obstacles here. Like, who am I talking to? Who's that other person? And are they for me getting what I want, or are they against me? Is there anything physical that's going to get in the road? Or is it something within myself that's going to get in the road? Because quite often a lot of good stories and a lot of good characters, they go through that conflict where, they're not just having to deal with other people stopping them, but it's a total human trait of really having to deal with our own insecurities. And when we look at it, I mean, that's where great writing comes from. We look at our own life and, why do we do the things we do? And more importantly, why don't we do the things that we don't do? Like, why didn't I tidy my office? Why haven't I exercised today already or yesterday? If my goal is to lose weight and to get healthier and to get fit, then the obstacle comes from myself because I'm not out there doing it. And, where the biggest obstacles usually come from within ourselves. So anyway, that's a little bit about obstacles. If you want to know more, make sure you write some comments. Please write comments on the video if there's any clarification you want about that. And next week I might go into Beats and start talking about a few other things. Or if you've got some other suggestions of what you'd like me to talk about, then I can do that as well. I'm still waiting to hear from a couple of the guys about the actors talk about themselves, which I haven't managed to do yet. I'm actually pretty busy next week. I'm off filming, so I don't know if I'll be able to get it done next week, but I'll have another one of these prepared. And don't forget, of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed, and please share. Just share with your friends. Tell them to subscribe. There's a lot of videos there now, so I'd love for more people to watch them. And you can share playlists as well as particular videos. I've sort of changed the headings of a lot of them in the playlist. So I've got actors talk about, and then I've got actors talk about themselves. So yeah, I've sort of separated them out a little bit. But I urge you to keep sharing the videos, keep watching them, and have a great week. The sun is shining finally here in Sydney after a lot of rain, and thanks to all the messages too. People have been messaging about the storms. Luckily, while I'm in Sydney, the storms happened in North Queensland, which is quite a bit further north, and it's been pretty devastating for them up there. But we're safe and we're well. So thank you for your concern, and thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next week. See you later.
Yeah, nah, sweet.